Good afternoon, students. Today's physiology practical class is on topic amphibian nerve muscle charts or graphs. So in this class, we are going to see the nerve muscle charts or graphs obtained by doing this type of preparation. As you can see in the pictures. Okay. So this is how the frog is prepared, the nerve muscle preparation like this. So these experiments we are not going to do in our lab, amphibian lab, but only the graphs we are going to read, and then we should understand the concept behind that. And then in the Viva physiology practical examination, we will show this. We will give you this one of the chart and ask you some questions. So this is entirely based on the theoretical knowledge. So practically we are not going to do these experiments. Okay. So we have finished the nerve muscle in nerve muscle physiology in theory part, right? Okay. So entire concept of these charts or graphs are based on that theory classes. Okay. So the first and most important graph is simple muscle twitch. Okay, so this is a most important and commonly asked chart in this nerve muscle charts. Okay, so first of all, what is a simple muscle twitch? So when a muscle is stimulated with single induction shock, okay, so the muscle, if you see the picture from the previous slide, so the muscle, we will be stimulating it by giving a shock. It exhibits a momentary twitch like contraction. So the stimulus or response is twitch, that is nothing but a contraction. So this momentary contraction of muscle in response to electrical stimulation is called simple muscle twitch or SMT. Okay, in short form we call it as SMT. So the contraction recorded on a moving kymograph is known as simple muscle curve. Okay, so this is the simple muscle curve which is recorded on a moving kymograph. Okay, so the twitch is contraction, the momentary contraction of the muscle in response to electrical stimulation is the twitch. So this is observed in the frog while we are doing the experiment, and this is which is recorded on the graph. So it is called simple muscle curve. Okay, so these points A, B, C, D and E are there. No? So in this picture, the graph, whatever we are seeing, these are the PS means, or MS or PS is point of stimulation, and this A to B, from A to B is latent period, and B to C is contraction period, and C to D is relaxation period. Okay, you can see in this picture also latent period, contraction period and relaxation period. So this is the simple muscle curve. This is height of the amplitude of the curve. So what is a latent period? Means period from point of stimulus to the point of onset of contraction, and contraction period is period between the point of onset of contraction to the point that corresponds to the peak of contraction. So this is the peak of contraction, right? So from here if you draw a line, so this is the point of peak of contraction. So from here to here it is contraction period, and relaxation period is period from the point of peak of contraction to the end of relaxation. So these periods you should know the names. Okay, so when the graph is shown, you should be able to tell what it is and definition of simple muscle twitch and what are these periods. Okay, so these are basic things which are expected from you. And then, so the reasons for latent period. So this is the most common question asked. So the reasons for latent period, it is because of time taken for the stimulus to travel along the nerve to neuromuscular junction. So when the stimulus is given, it takes some time for the stimulus to travel along the nerve to the neuromuscular junction. And also one more reason is time taken for the impulse to cross the neuromuscular junction and to stimulate the muscle. And also the time taken for excitation contraction coupling to occur, and also time taken by the lever to overcome the inertia of rest, and also time taken to overcome the viscous resistance of the muscle. So all these are the reasons for the latent period, that is from the point of stimulus for the actual contraction to take place. So this time gap is present. So that is the reason for the stimulus to travel from the nerve to the muscle to overcome the viscous resistance of the muscle and for the muscle to start contracting. So till that point there are various reasons given. Okay. So this is a time tracing and these are the physiological curves which are obtained after the resting, after the complete relaxation of the muscle. So some physiological curves will be produced because of inertia of the lever. So the next graph is effect of temperature on simple muscle twitch. So first one is the simple muscle twitch, and on that we are going to perform different changes and then recording the graph. Okay. So the second one is effect of temperature. So simply here we are going to change the Ringer solution in which the nerve muscle preparation is kept. Okay. So for keeping the muscle activity live. So the temperature is changed. So there will be change in amplitude and duration of different periods of contraction, that is latent contraction and relaxation period. So the temperature is increased and also decreased. So these changes in amplitude and period of contraction are mainly due to change in rate of conduction velocity in the nerve and also enzymatic chemical activities in the muscle and change in viscosity of the muscle. Okay, so what is happening when you increase the temperature or decrease the temperature means there will be change in the rate of conduction velocity in the nerve and also viscosity of the muscle and enzymatic chemical activity of the muscle will be changed. So that's how the amplitudes and periods of this SMT will be changing. So what happens when you increase the temperature to 38 degrees, that is warm temperature. Okay, so 38 to 40 degrees temperature. So what happens means, so all the periods, latent contraction period, relaxation periods will decrease and height of the curve will increase. Okay, so this decrease in latent period and all the periods is because of increase in conduction velocity, increased rate of neuromuscular transmission, and also due to faster contraction and relaxation because of activation of ATP myosin ATPase activity and decreased resistance of muscle to contraction as the viscosity of muscle decreases with increased temperature. Okay, so why the periods are decreasing means faster contraction and relaxation is taking place because of decreased viscosity of the muscle, and also if the viscosity is decreased, resistance will be decreased, so there will be faster movement of the stimulus. Okay, so the same applies to cold temperature. Okay, so decreased rate of conduction of impulse in the nerve and through the nerve muscular junction and increased viscosity of the muscle, decreased enzymatic and chemical activities in the muscle are the reasons for increased periods, latent contraction and relaxation period, and decrease in the height of the muscle contraction. So these are seen in cold temperature or cold Ringer solution effect on SMT. So these are the main questions or main things you should know in effect of temperature. And the next graph is effect of increasing strength of stimulus. So this is the most important concept. Only one concept you should remember here. So what is happening, why as you increase the strength of stimulus. Okay, so as you increase the strength of stimulus, what is happening here, you can see the height of contraction. So this is actually the graphs in a moving kymograph. It will be like this, like simple muscle only, but this is taken on a standing graph. The kymograph, the drum is not moving, so these are shown as lines. Okay, so the procedure is not changing here, only the moving drum is kept standing and then these graphs are recorded. Okay, so the amplitude of contraction increases with increasing strength of stimuli. So the first, what does these words mean? Subminimal, minimal or threshold, submaximal, maximal and supramaximal. These are different strengths of stimuli. So subminimal or subthreshold stimulus is stimulus that does not evoke a response. So here you can't see any response. So minimal stimulus is which produces a response. Okay, that is threshold stimulus. And just threshold that is just sufficient to evoke a response. Okay, and the maximal or submaximal is lesser than the maximal. So maximal stimulus produces the maximum response, and supramaximal is stronger than maximal but does not change the magnitude of contraction after reaching this peak level. So here only full response is seen, and if you increase further also, there will be no change in height of the curve. So when a muscle is stimulated, so what is the reason behind this? I am telling you. When a muscle is stimulated with increasing strength of stimuli, more and more motor units are recruited. So this results in an increase in amplitude of contraction. A motor unit is as you know, it is defined as a single motor neuron and the muscle fibers that it supplies. So the concept behind this is recruitment of motor units. As the strength of the stimulus is increasing, there will be recruitment of new motor units so that the height of the curve or height of the contraction is increased. So that is the concept you should remember for this graph. Okay. So the next graph is effect of two successive stimuli. So here what is happening? Two stimuli PS1 and PS2. Okay. Two stimuli are paired and applied to the muscle. So then the magnitude of contraction changes and depending on the time of second stimulus. Okay, so two stimuli we are applying successively, that is one after the other immediately, and the timing of the second stimulus when it is applied to the immediately after the first stimulus, depending on that timing, the contraction magnitude of contraction of the second wave will change. Okay, so that is the process of this experiment or this graph. Okay, so what is happening when you apply two successive stimuli means, so the response of muscle to the paired stimuli depends on the timing, as I have told you. If the second stimulus is applied in the absolute refractory period, okay, so for this you should know, or you should just go back and revise the refractory period from the nerve muscle physiology. So there are two types of refractory period, right? Okay, one is absolute and relative. Okay, so absolute means the period during which a second stimulus does not produce any response, no matter how strong the stimulus is and what the duration of application of stimulus is. So how much ever strong or how much ever long duration the stimulus is applied, it will not produce any response if you apply that second stimulus in the absolute refractory period. And relative refractory period means it is the period during which a stimulus of greater strength may evoke a response. Okay. So these are the two points, absolute and relative refractory period, you should know before understanding this graph. So what is happening here in the first picture, you can see the second stimulus is applied in the absolute refractory period. Okay, so here, so this is after refractory period. So in the next picture I will show. So if the second stimulus is applied in the absolute refractory period of previous stimulation, it does not evoke any response. And if it falls in the relative refractory period, so in this picture, if it falls in the relative refractory period somewhere here, a response will be obtained. Okay, so the second one, response will be obtained. And the third picture, if the second stimulus falls during the relaxation period of the first stimulus, there will be increased response of the same curve. Okay, so the same curve will be increased, it does not touch the baseline and it goes, increases in height and then relaxes. So this is conjoint curve. Okay, and then if it is applied during again relaxation period little before, so here also the same thing happens, and this is during so this is during the contraction period of the first stimulus. So the height is increasing without any change in the graph. And here also this is during the absolute refractory period, the second stimulus is applied, so there is no change in the graph. Okay, so these are the different types or changes in the waves when the second stimulus is applied on the depending on the timing, that is when it is applied, that is either in contraction, relaxation, or absolute refractory, relative refractory period, like that. Okay, so why the height is increasing? So for that, the reason is beneficial effect. So what does this beneficial effect mean? When a muscle is stimulated by two successive stimuli, the magnitude of contraction of second stimulus is greater than the first. So this is because first stimulus becomes beneficial for the second one. So what is happening means calcium ions released from the terminal cisterns during muscle contraction are pumped back into the cisterns during relaxation. So therefore, when second stimulus falls in the relaxation period or immediately following relaxation of first one, some amount of calcium is left in the sarcoplasm, and this increases the calcium concentration for the second stimulus as it adds to the calcium that it has been left in sarcoplasm from the first stimulus. So therefore, height of contraction increases with second stimulus. Okay. So already the calcium which is present for the first contraction, that is added up for the second contraction. So that is the beneficial effect which is seen in this effect of successive stimuli. Okay. And the next graph is genesis of tetanus. So here tetanus means a sustained tonic contraction of the muscle, sustained state of tonic contraction of the muscle without relaxation. Okay, that is tetanus. So that is happening because of repeated stimulation of the muscle. So if the muscle is stimulated at lower rate or lower frequency, there is no tetanus. And if the rate of stimulation is increased, that is higher frequency, then only tetanus will take place, will happen. Okay, so if you can see here, the rate of stimulation is here 5 per second, 10 per second, 15 to 20, 30, and more than 40. So here in these last two picture, you can see that sustained state of muscle contraction, this one. So this is tetanus. Okay, so that is the principle. If a muscle is stimulated at higher frequency, there is a sustained state of tonic contraction of muscle, nothing but tetanus. Okay, so this is also called tetanizing frequency. So more than 40 per second is called tetanizing frequency. So this sustained repeated stimuli are applied using a vibrating interrupter in the experiment. So in this first two pictures, you can see the height is increasing like this in a sliding manner. So you can also relate this like to a staircase. Okay, so staircase phenomenon. So this is called staircase phenomenon or TREPI. So it is a progressive increasing force of contraction for the first 2 or 3 contractions when a muscle is stimulated repeatedly. So this occurs due to accumulation of calcium, that is otherwise called beneficial effect. So this is also, this effect is seen in normal skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle also. And then the clonus, it is a state of partial tetanus observed in experimental condition only. Okay, so this should not be confused with the clinical clonus. Okay, which is seen in upper motor neuron type of lesion. Okay, so in experimental, this type of clonus, the relaxation is incomplete. Okay, so here you can see here the relaxation, it is not coming back to the baseline. So relaxation is incomplete. So these two are incomplete tetanus or clonus. So this is complete tetanus. So here the muscle remains in a state of tonic contraction without relaxation. So rapid and repeated stimulation leads the stimuli to fall during contraction phase, so that contractile processes are repeatedly activated. The muscle does not get the time to relax. So therefore, with each stimulation, muscle contracts without relaxation. So individual responses fuse to give a state of sustained contraction. So that is the reason behind this sustained state of contraction. The muscle is not getting the time for relaxation. So these graphs, first one TREPI or staircase phenomenon, clonus or incomplete tetanus, and then complete tetanus. Okay, you should know the frequency when the tetanus is taking place and the reason behind the tetanus. So next graph is genesis of fatigue. So this is fatigue is a common word which you will be knowing the meaning of it. So tiredness. Okay, so it is defined as decrease in performance due to continuous or prolonged activity. It can occur in a whole organism that is intact and also isolated muscle preparation like this experiment. So the mechanism is different in both the intact and isolated preparations. So fatigue is reversible and there is no permanent functional or structural damage. Okay, so you can easily understand this because as when you work for more time, you feel tired. That is because of muscle fatigue. Okay, so in humans, the site of this fatigue is central nervous system, and in this nerve muscle preparation, the site is neuromuscular junction. Okay, so the principle for this is when the nerve muscle is repeatedly and continuously stimulated, the muscle will be fatigued. Okay, so the phenomenon is of this fatigue is recorded by stimulating the preparation without changing the baseline point of stimulus and strength. So the stimulation point and strength is not changed, but it is continuously stimulated. So that is the process behind this, and the graph obtained will be like this. So the observations in this graph are for the first 3 contractions and the uh, subsequent contractions, the amplitude and duration of the graph you should observe. So this is 1, 2, 3, right? Okay. So with the onset of fatigue, the relaxation period of the muscle twitch prolongs and the baseline goes up. So the relaxation period is prolonging for further contractions, further stimulations. So relaxation period is prolonged and the baseline goes up. So here for this last 10, 20, 30, these are the number of stimuli. You can see here relaxation period is increasing and the baseline, it is not touching the baseline. So muscle contraction occurs by direct stimulation of the muscle following fatigue. And the cause of this fatigue is depletion of acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter from the myoneural junction. So this prolongation of relaxation period is the early sign of fatigue. So when the muscle is fatigued, the relaxation becomes incomplete and then it remains in a state of partial contraction. So this is called contraction reminder. Okay, so this is one of the important points in this graph. What is contraction period means? After the muscle is fatigued, the relaxation becomes incomplete and muscle remains in a partial state of contraction, state of partial contraction. So that is called contraction reminder, and it occurs due to decrease in ATP content and accumulation of metabolites in the muscle. Okay, so this is the concept behind this fatigue. Contraction reminder you should know, and then the increased relaxation period, baseline going up, contraction. So these things you should remember, and the reason behind this fatigue, and also the site of fatigue in humans and nerve muscle preparation. Okay, so the last graph in this class is effect of load on simple muscle curve. So we are applying some weights to the muscle before contraction and also after contraction. So that is, and the effect is observed while changing the load on the muscle. Okay, so the change in muscle contraction observed by changing the timing of application in relation to contraction. The load is applied prior to the contraction in free loaded condition and during contraction or after the onset of contraction in afterload. So here two words you should know: preload or free load and afterload. So preload means when load is applied to muscle before the muscle starts to contract. So that is free loaded. And when load is applied after the onset of contraction, that is afterloaded. So the work done by the muscle is affected by afterloading and free loading. So in free loaded condition, the work efficiency increases, and in afterload, the work efficiency decreases. So this is most common observation in your daily life. So uh, uh, if you keep the load before the muscle contracts, that is if you hold and then if you hold a weight and then after that you contract the muscle, then work efficiency is more. But if you observe that the load is applied after the start of contraction, then the work efficiency decreases. Okay, so if you hold a bucket full of water, from holding a bucket and keeping it under the tap and holding it continuously, that is already contraction has started and then the load is increasing. So that time what happens, you can't hold the bucket for long time, so work efficiency decreases. So that is one example. So in this graph you can observe, so this is preloaded, the as the weight is increasing. Okay, so this is sorry, after loaded diagrams. Okay, this one and this one, this is moving drum, this is stationary drum. So as the weight is increasing, what is happening, the height of contraction and latent period increases as the weight increases. Okay, height of contraction decreases and latent period increases as the weight increases. On the other hand, in free loaded, this one, okay, so free loaded, what is happening, as the height as the weight is increasing, height of contraction is increasing. Okay, so this is not a straight line, so you can observe as the weight is increasing, height of contraction is increasing for each curve. So decrease in height in after loaded condition and increasing in height in free loaded condition with increasing in weight is observed in this effect of load. Okay. So the reasons behind are, height of contraction increases in free loaded because stretching of muscle increases the initial length of the muscle fibers, okay, prior to contraction. So this change in initial length changes the force of contraction by Frank-Starling law. So as the initial length is increased, the force of contraction increases. Okay, so the physiological basis of this law is that with an increasing in length prior to contraction, interaction between the actin-myosin filament increases. Okay, but this is up to a physiological limit. So this concept is from length tension relationship of the skeletal muscle. So you should just check out that length tension relationship, that is actin myosin filaments, active tension, passive tension. Okay, so if you understand that, you can also understand this easily. So here the free load condition, the reason for increasing in the height of the amplitude, this one, okay, is because of Franklin-Starling law. Okay, so after load, the example for this free load and after load in normal day-to-day lives are, lifting heavy weights is after load and throwing a stone is a free load example. Okay, and so that's all for today's class. So I hope you understood a little bit. So it will be like a revision for you, nerve muscle physiology. So today read the topics from skeletal muscle, the properties of skeletal muscle, then you can understand all these graphs easily. And I also suggest you to take the practical manual, the amphibian nerve muscle experiments. So read one after the other, and the Viva questions mainly you have to read perfectly and try to answer all those Viva questions, and if possible note down these Viva questions in an observation notebook, and when you buy the record books from the college, you can write down all those in your record books. So that's all. Thank you all.